Everyone, welcome to the Eyes Open Network, where we bring you the truth about geopolitics, world economics, world news, false flags, anything of that nature. It's anything the mainstream media isn't willing to report on, or at least truthfully report on. One of the things that we covered at the Eyes Open Network last week was the provoking of a potential World War III by the U.S. Not wanting to, be blamed for the World War, the coming of the Third World War. What they wanted to do is they want to, poke at the bear and provoke an aggressive action from other superpowers, so they can conveniently wrap up the economic collapse that is coming into a nice, neat package and sell it to the American people as the reason behind the collapse, not their disregard for what's best for America by printing money out of thin air with no regard for the devaluing of its worth. So I was reading a couple of reports that very much put a big old exclamation point on the coming economic collapse, and completely underscore the deepening conflicts over cash in the world and how the monetary system is just under far too much stress. One of the latest trends in the U.S. banking system is that they're deeming the big cash deposits as a threat to their financial health. The examples that I found and was looking at were Street Corp, the Boston-based bank, for the first time in its history is charging customers for their large dollar deposits. In addition to that, the nation's largest bank by assets, JP Morgan Chase, has managed to reduce its unwanted deposits by more than $150 billion this year alone due to these charges. Fact is, big business has large sums of money on hand with no viable opportunities to profitably invest it. So it's just sitting there in banks and it has nowhere, they have nowhere else to move it. Now, what does this mean, and why doesn't seem like a big deal, does it? But banks are not excited about holding all this money because there's the new rules that were just finalized last September, which was overseen by the Federal Reserve, stating that banks must hold on reserve as much as 40% against certain corporate deposits and as much as 100% against these deposits from hedge funds. Yikes. That's a big deal for the banks, because how can you perform fractional reserve banking and loaning out money when you have to reserve 100% of the money being deposited? So that, coupled with the Federal Reserve's maintaining its low interest rates and not raising them, has really done a number on the bank's ability to generate profit. Now, pardon me. That's why these fees, the fees that have been coming out, are focused on certain large deposits deemed risky by regulators, right? Sometimes referred to as hot money deposits, which are a potential to flee in crisis. Now that just means that in a financial downturn, or things get hot, or when things get crazy, they can withdraw their money just like that and it's gone. Or that, if there's a run on the banks, these bigger banks withdrawing large sums of money will certainly tax the system in a very bad way. But I thought the government said there was no crisis, there's nothing to worry about. Yet all of these charges lead and point to the fact that there is a problem. The other topic that perhaps is a little bit more closer to home and impacts you and I a little bit more closely is the central bankers preparing to ban cash. That's right, I said they're looking to ban cash. Now, or at the very least restrict the amount of cash that you're permitted to have or take out from the bank or withdraw. We saw it in Greece, right? The banks just shut down and people couldn't get access to their money. And when they reopened, they put on pretty significant restrictions on how much they could withdraw. They will encourage, credit card purchases and debit purchases, all electronic stuff. So all the money stays in electronic limbo, so that there's no actual money it's just all thin air. You're buying stuff with thin air, basically. So think of it like this. We've entered a time in the U.S. government history where the central banks are losing control of what's going on in the world. They've lost control, or they're in the process of losing control. Um, the world debt is out of control. U.S. debt out of control. And neither of it is sustainable, right? You can't continue to sustain these crazy out of control debt uh, without some sort of repercussions. Well, that's where we enter World War III and the coming economic collapse, and how it gets nicely neat and packaged up so perfectly. I mean, there just isn't any money in the U.S. for people to give. So that means the bankers have to take instead. The lack of money for the bankers to receive is shown through the layoffs being felt all over. Twitter recently announced their layoffs, and more are coming in the coming months. Even though we're leading up into the holiday season, you can see that people are struggling to find replacement to full-time income and having to work multiple part-time jobs, or that aren't even bothering looking for jobs. They're making do with single income, which hasn't happened in a long time. They just don't have that disposable income. So the disposable income being on the decline, you see retailers are closing. They're closing their doors as we lead into the holiday season, where there's supposed to be the most amount of money available, as trends would dictate, right? So the writing is on the wall. It's not like this is something new and that I'm announcing something that nobody's ever heard of before. National chain stores are already seeing a 2% drop in their sales in the first week of October. Like that's a pretty big deal. And the government pundits out there, they want you to say that it's not going to be that bad, and it isn't that bad. Truth is that manufacturing's in the toilet. Let's be honest. I mean, I found another article just today when I was preparing for this, and Walmart is also in trouble with the consumer spending drying up. Wednesday of last week, Walmart experienced the largest single-day decline in 27 years after an extremely disappointing earnings projection was released. The stock was down 10%, representing the biggest plunge since 1988. Over $21 billion of shareholder wealth was wiped out on Wednesday. That's just continuation of Walmart's very bad year. Overall, the shares already declined 22% so far in 2015 before we even got to Wednesday. It's just how things are going, guys. I mean, when I said to you that the manufacturing when the retail sales are contracting, and that means that manufacturing is also contracting. And if you're not believing me that retail sales are contracting, then you just have to look at the Baltic Dry Index. The truth is manufacturing is in the toilet. The Baltic Dry Index is dropping like a lead balloon. Normally, at this time of year, the Baltic Dry Index is around 1,500 points, but it hovers at less than 800 points as of today. The normal is almost twice as high, which means that manufacturing of goods or products, goods that we want to purchase, is down significantly. So if they're not manufacturing stuff, it's because nobody's buying stuff. Now, these two concepts. Well, three. The Walmart thing falls into the retailer side of things, but the two concepts about the retailers drying up, people's disposable income not being available, they have no money, so there might be the ban on cash or restriction of withdrawals, so that cash isn't in hand and you have to use plastic in order to make purchases, and for banks to be restricting their applying charges to big deposits. It just means that there is the economic candle is being burnt at both ends, right? You got the retail side that's dying. You got the bigger companies with huge cash deposits wanting to put it in the bank because they have nowhere to invest it because there's nothing in the way of return out there. So the big banks want to charge them because they can't use this money to fractionally reserve and loan out more money so that they can make money off the interest return. They have no money coming in from out of work Americans. The central banking system begins to prepare to restrict cash withdrawals from you, Joe American. And then these large sum deposits, some reserved at 100%, don't allow banks to capitalize on fractional reserve loans. So the big banks will charge fees on these deposits. The coming economic collapse is a real thing, and ignoring it won't make it go away. The government would have you believe everything is going to be fine, and if they restrict your cash withdrawal, that they are protecting you. But if the U.S. can create the illusion of other nations starting World War III through false flags and other acts of aggression, that when the bubble bursts, they can blame everyone else except themselves for this economic collapse. You've been watching a Eyes Open Network video. I hope that you subscribe to our channel to find out more information and stay in touch with the videos that we're producing on world news, geopolitics, economics, false flags. Put your comment below. Start the discussion. Make sure that people are opening their eyes. Take care. Have yourself an awesome day.